Well, good afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you're from or where you're at, I guess. I'm happy to be able to be the last presenter. What I want to show is other ways that you use the power of EdMaps. I mean, we've spent all morning looking at all these powerful tools that Chuck and his group has built, the structure of it, the ease of it. Chuck, I really love that first slide, or one of the first slides you did that showed, bad data in, bad data out. That is so important to be able to have the data as good data. And what I'm going to go through today is going to show how in Utah we're using the data, how we're using this data in Utah to be able to do marketing with it. And also, it helps us when we have either federal funds or state funds, how we're actually using those funds and allocating those funds. I have a whole bunch of tabs, so I just want to make sure the first one. So when Chuck talked about the importance of having a core data set, I can't stress that enough. There is so much information that you can do once you have a core data set. So in Utah, once we got our core data set, we started to look at, well, how do we combine this with other elements like our biocontrol, our monitoring? How can we use this actually, for me as a state weed coordinator, to help each one of the 29 counties in Utah do a better job? And so we are able to work with Chuck and his partners to be able to pull live data from EdMaps and be able to show it, and then be able to push this out to the public. And the idea is we want to put everything we possibly can front facing to the public, to our CWMAs, to UDAF's website, everywhere we can, that anybody who wants to come and do an analysis of our data and what's happening in Utah, has the ability to be able to do it. I'm going to go through quite a few different iterations of dashboards that we use using the core data from EdMaps and how they link together. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on any of them, but it'll give you a good idea of how you can use the data once you've secured it. So this is just our invasive species dashboard. So these are regulated species in Utah. You can see the colors direct from EdMaps, where I can zoom in and look at any area and see what's been treated, what's been eradicated, and what are new points that are coming in. I can also look at it from year to year to see how I'm doing as a state, or I can go and filter this really quickly to an individual county, and I can look at each of the counties, and I'm picking on Jerry on this one, to say, how is Jerry doing in his county, and be able to zoom in, see what point data is there. And I can even pull this information directly from EdMaps. If I click on a point, this is the actual EdMaps data that was put into EdMaps, so I can look specifically on it. In any kind of an ArcGIS dashboard, realize you have the ability to add as many layers as you want. So if there's something specific to you, to your project, to your county, to your state, even up to a regional area, you can add a lot of different data, and that's what I'm going to show you. You also have the ability to look at your data through different base maps. I use this base map because it's really easy, but I could go to imagery or hybrid or anything on this. So this gives an idea that for me, as I'm allocating funds across the state each year, or I'm passing federal money through, so all of our grants that come from our federal partners, I really quickly can show what's happening where, and I have a core set of data that has been verified. It's very confident in that data that I can then back it up if I'm audited or if I want to show some additional information. So I want to show going from that to another tool that Chuck and his partners are able to do also. This is just another GIS component where we take the EdMaps tool, we bring it into something called SIPA, a spatial infestation or invasive infestation priority analysis, that allows us to take the data from EdMaps and put it into a different structure. The reason we do this in a different structure is because what we want to do is we want to pull in other elements and then compare those elements to that data set, that core data set. And those elements that we're looking at are like habitat. What is the habitat in a given area where those points are? Another, let me quickly go down to here. We have the ability to pull in multiple indexes. So if we want to know like endangered species, where are they located in Utah and what is the priority for them? We pull all of these indexes. We can pull habitat, elk, mule, deer. These are just ones that are important to Utah. Water. We can even go into fire and get our fire indexes and put them all into it. And I'll show you what that does. But again, this starts with the core data set from EdMaps as our primary evaluator when a project goes down. When this comes into a SIPA model, you can zoom into an area and you have a whole bunch of tools that you can look at where you can see what species, what the percentage of those species. And again, these are all regulated species in Utah. But it allows you to do an analysis on this project using these data points directly from EdMaps. When someone puts a project in, because you have that point data and all of the different indexes, it allows it to go and run an analysis and tell you an actual score. And in Utah, we have, a couple hundred grants that are coming through each year. So if we're going to rank them out and decide which ones we're going to allocate funds to, we start using these indexes with the EdMaps points to say, okay, what is a high priority area for Utah? And then it actually allows us, the system, to generate an initial point value for what that project looks like. It also can generate a full map to tell the project manager based on how you answered all the questions in habitat and what points are there. And it prioritizes them by color, which ones you should do first. And then it generates, a lot of other acreage reports as to which are federal acres, private acres. But then the really cool thing is it shows you all of the point data from EdMaps. So like in this project, there was 3,000, almost 4,000 individual points of garlic mustard. So what is their focus? Where are they putting their energy on it? So that becomes very handy as a tool for us. And again, that's all being driven from the EdMaps data. And then we can take it a step further. So I want to show you, this is a different dashboard that we're running for our projects. So when we get funded, federal or state funding, and we're running through, how do we show the public and show legislators and auditors and push it out to our CWMAs as what's happening in Utah each year? We can run this through a dashboard. And again, it starts with those EdMaps points. Let me show you how, if we zoom in on one of these, what you're able to pull out of it. I'll go to 2023. And we'll pull this one. The project area that was submitted to us to be funded, it pulls in all of the point data from EdMaps where we can see exactly what they've treated in the past, where they're going to treat now, brings in the information for it, tells us how much is federal, private, or state acres. That all comes from the point data, and that evaluation is done. And then once this project is done, if we want to push this front facing and actually do marketing, so we can show, legislators and other people what we're doing with that money, it gives you the ability where we can load up a storyboard. So this is the monitoring that was done on this project, where we can quickly push this out to the public through social media so people can see it. The idea is we don't want people to have to ask what's happening in the field. We can actually push it forward and start to generate more money. And I'm going to scroll. I know I hate when people scroll fast, but I want to get down to, so there's our data. When Jerry was talking about the pictures on EdMaps Pro, the reason you want to do this is because when you need to do a report or you want to show, regardless if it's at the county or at the federal level, what's happened in the field, it allows you to quickly put a picture and show, what's happening in the field. This is a good one right here in a report. So this is where it started in 2019, and this is how it is in 2021. So are you successful? It's very easy to tell the numbers. Yeah, we treated this much and we spent this much money, but a picture is worth 1,000 words, and truly you can show it, the easiest through being able to do pictures. The nice thing about it too is because, we started with all of that data, we can track it year after year. If you're doing a multi-year project, when we first started this one, most all of this was red. As you zoom in, you're starting to see, I can look at it more closer to see, okay, the greens are eradicated. They're no longer there. The yellows are being treated last year. And actually what the project looks like. And you can capture this and be able to show it. The other thing, I'm going to show you a different one. So this is for state money that comes through. Our federal partners, they have a different criteria. They want to know what the match is. They have a different criteria that is pulling from project data. They want to know how much herbicide monitoring, how much is being protected. So you can use that same system and pull the data in. Once you have that core data, it really is up to you as to what you want to be able to show in your dashboards, to be able to tell your story and be able to get it front facing for the public. I think that's one of the things that we have such a hard time as an industry in invasive species is we haven't told our story really well. All of us are doing great work, but have we told our story really well? So in this one, it's a completely different sidebar over here. The feds wanted to know who our partners were, what that contribution was from partners versus their money. And so you have that flexibility to be able to do it. We're still showing what's being treated and what's positive, and then, the funding on this one. I'm going to jump to one more. And this one is a little different. This is our biocontrol dashboard. And the reason I'm showing you this is because the relationship between biocontrol and invasive species is a very close relationship. So we can see where all of our biocontrol is being released, where our monitoring is being done, and where we have all of our insectaries can be put in here. We have the ability where if we want to see how effective that potentially the monitoring is, we can turn on the noxious weeds and overlay the weeds directly from EdMaps to say, okay, that makes sense why we're releasing right here so many biocontrol releases. And then over time, we can track how effective it is. But it also gives us the ability, if I click on this one on the right, to be able to do the same thing where we can generate a report over here on this side to show what happened with that release. And then the really kind of cool thing is we can create these 30-second social media videos that can get pushed out on all the social media channels, or you can download the full report right here. So I'm trying to show you multiple different ways to use that core data set and of what EdMaps, and this doesn't replace what Rebecca showed you with their dashboards is brilliant, and it gives you a lot of information. We've taken some of that and added additional features to it so that we can push it front facing on a continual basis. Then the last one is, if you want to take it even further, this is the Western Wheat Coordinators. So this is the whole Western United States. Each state who is built and doing their project is funding it up. Right now, there's 3 states that are in it. And the idea is to use the EdMaps points, put project information with it, and then push it all up so that in Washington, D.C., for a specific funding like the BIL funding, you have all of this information available. The different regional coordinators can come and pull this and show a really good story. I think that's really a quick review of how we are using the EdMaps data, and I can't stress enough, it is really important that you have a solid data set to work with to make any of these type of GIS programs work for you. And then, work directly with Chuck and his partners to be able to build these various different things for you. I think that's it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to invite all of our panelists to share their videos, and we'll open it up for questions for the entire group here. All right. And while we're waiting on some of those to get included here, I was wondering if Chuck, if you have any words you'd like to share with the audience to summarize today's event, or if anyone has some big lessons they'd like to share with the audience.
I guess I'll just thank everybody for coming today.